All right, hey VC, it's Jamie. Welcome back with another contest entry video, and I'm uploading this on November the 11th, Remembrance Day. So we remember and wearing the poppy proudly today. So this is a contest entry for Steve Carlson's 1,000 plus subscribers, and Steve Carlson, of course, so well received in the vinyl community. He has a great YouTube channel, always entertaining, and Steve is always very supportive in the vinyl community, and he has just an amazing vinyl collection. Great recommendations, often introducing me to artists and bands that I'm not familiar with at all, and they're always great suggestions. So, hats off to Steve, a great channel. And so, yeah, we're back with this contest entry. So, this is for your favorite albums or your favorite go-to albums. Now, as a few of you have commented in the VC, this is easy but not so easy, because certainly your musical preferences or your musical, likes and dislikes change over the years. And so the albums that, I was listening to when I was young still love, but they're not necessarily my go-to albums now. So I thought, well, thinking about this contest, I'm going to go with the albums from my youth. So we're talking a number of records from late 70s, early 80s, late teens, early 20s, that sort of thing. Thought I'd focus mainly on that. So these are kind of nerdy selections with the exception of one. So first off, I'm going to go with the debut album from the band Saga, a Canadian band that I saw performed at my high school a number of times earlier in their career, and absolutely was blown away by this band. Great prog rock with a lot of keyboards, but also still great guitar work. Michael Sadler, the lead vocalist with this band, always loved his vocals. And yeah, so they performed a number of times at my high school, met the band members, and at one time even helped the road crew tear down the set, which was very cool at the time. So this is their debut from 1978. And Saga's not to everybody's taste, but I've always been a fan of the band. They're also quite big in Europe, particularly in Germany. And the band has now since disbanded, although technically I think they're open for offers for any, big concerts or music festivals, that sort of thing. But yeah, always enjoyed this band, Saga. And so their debut from 1978. Okay, and next on the list, certainly another band I saw perform many times, certainly in my hometown and in the area, the band Max Webster. Now, I've talked about Max Webster. I've featured a box set on their vinyl reissues. This is their album A Million Vacations from 1979. And this is an original copy or an early issue because on subsequent copies, for whatever reason, with these postcards that are on the cover, they've since blacked out the eyes. I don't know if there's some copyright issue or something like that with regards to that, but so Max Webster featuring Kim Mitchell. He's the lead vocalist and guitarist from the band, and this album still gets a lot of play on classic rock radio, particularly Paradise Skies, A Million Vacations, Let Go of the Line. And this was the album, if you're not familiar with this band, they're kind of proggy, but also kind of rock pop, if you will, with a lot of humor in their music. There's a lot of that sort of Frank Zappa element to their music. This was the album when it came out. I thought, wow, this sounds great. This is really going to take them to the next level. If you will. Unfortunately, it didn't. They released one more album after this, the album Universal Juveniles. By then, they were just down to original band member Kim Mitchell. Then they disbanded after that. Kim Mitchell decided to go for a successful solo career in Canada. But yeah, sadly, Max Webster weren't able to get to that sort of, next level, if you will. But this is a great introduction. If you're not familiar with Max Webster, can't go wrong with this album, Million Vacations. All right. And certainly this band would often open for this band, Rush. So this is Rush Moving Pictures from 1981. Now I could have gone with, in terms of go-to albums, I could have gone with Farewell to Kings or Permanent Waves, but I thought I'd go with this one. This was definitely a go-to album. Start to finish, Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, YYZ, Limelight, that's all on side one. Then you've got Witch Hunt, on side two, Vital Signs. It's a great album from start to finish. Again, Rush is not to everybody's taste, but I've always been a fan of the band. This was the one and only time I saw Rush. It was on the tour for this album in London, Ontario. And I don't know who opened up for them because the guys I was traveling with, we arrived so late we completely missed the opening act. Thankfully, we were able to catch the full show with Rush, but it was a great concert. but I don't know who opened. Likely it was Max Webster, but I can't say for certain. But Rush, Moving Pictures. Okay, and moving right along, we've got, yes, an old familiar favorite, Kiss Destroyer. I remember when Shout It Out Loud, the single came out, and I was absolutely blown away by that single. I was kind of familiar with Kiss, certainly with Kiss Alive, but not really knowing a lot about the band. But it was something about that song, Shout It Out Loud, listening to it on 45, just leapt out and just absolutely loved it, and then really got into Kiss. Now this is a reissue. This is a 180 gram vinyl reissue, but Bob Ezrin's production on this, and talking about taking Kiss to the next level with Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, God of Thunder, Shout It Out Loud, Beth, but still a perennial favorite, Kiss Destroyer. Okay, and the last album on my list is something a little different. I don't think I've talked about Stan Rogers, a Canadian artist, born in Hamilton, Ontario, so a shout out to Joel. Born in Hamilton, but had family in the East Coast, at Nova Scotia. So Stan Rogers, folk artist, would often go to the East Coast, visit family, and really be immersed in East Coast music of the East Coast, particularly traditional folk stuff. And he just loved that music, and that sound really goes through his sound in particular, particularly the traditional songs. Now Stan Rogers wrote a lot about Canada, all the different regions and different parts of Canada, but the East Coast was really his heart and soul. So this is a live album from 1979, and it's called Between the Breaks Live. So I don't know if a live album qualifies as a go-to, but for this one, there's only one song that was previously released at the time. All the rest were technically new songs. And so the one song here, Barrett's Privateers, that was the one that appeared on his first album, is sung a cappella. It's a real sort of sea shanty song, but in terms of the Stan Rogers catalog, that song is really up there. Barrett's Privateers, great track. But he has had a really rich baritone voice, incredible performer. Unfortunately, I never was able to see him perform live. Also on here, The Witch of the Westmoreland, amazing song. Flowers of Bermuda, Harrison the Mayor, beautiful song. And great folk artist, was kind of responsible for a real kind of folk revival in the late 70s or early 80s. Stan Rogers, Between the Breaks Live. Great. If you're not familiar with Stan Rogers, this is a really nice place to start, Stan Rogers. And Stan Rogers no longer with us. Stan Rogers died in 1983. It was a fire aboard an Air Canada flight. So there was a fire, smoke. They had to make an emergency landing. And sadly, Stan Rogers died. And that was 1983. Not a great year, a tough year in terms of that. For 1983, we lost Stan Rogers that year. Also that year, we lost Muddy Waters. Shout out to Chris and Blues Guy Vinyl. And also 1983 was the year I lost my father and my sister. They died in a car accident that year. In fact, it was this day, November the 11th. So now you're looking at 36 years ago. So a lot of memories when it comes to November 11th for me. I certainly miss them and think about them each and every day. But so I'm thinking about them, especially with Stan Rogers, with these, go-to albums. So I think of them on this November the 11th. So, and of course, we think of Steve Carlson. And boy, congratulations, Steve, on all the success you've had in the vinyl community, and keep it going. So those are my 5 go-to albums. If you haven't got your entry in, I think you've got this week to get those entries in, but there's so many contests going on in the vinyl community. It's unbelievable. So again, hats off to Steve Carlson, and thanks for you for dropping by. So we'll chat again real soon, probably more contest entries coming up. Take care. Bye-bye.